Hey everyone, welcome to Broadband Deployment News. Folks from both the House and the Senate have introduced a new bill called the Last Acre Act that would provide broadband to every acre of a farm, not just the residents. Be right back. Hello there, Rick Uzzi with Z-Corm for Broadband Deployment News. So I saw this come up in Inside Towers, and I hadn't heard of this. Now this has been introduced in both the House and the Senate, complementary bills, same language basically, but it's not been passed. So I'm not sure if it'll be passed, but I just thought it was interesting in that it's kind of bipartisan. You've got a Republican and Democrat name on each side of Congress there, and it's meant to provide. We've got lots of broadband money out there meant to connect up residential homes and businesses and farms, although a lot of times when you're talking about a farm, you're talking about just a structure on the farm, or it could be several structures on the farm, the home, maybe a barn, maybe a dairy, that kind of thing. But what about more broad areas of a farm, across every acre of the farm? How are you going to do that, and why is that needed? So that's kind of what this is meant to address, and it would be done through the USDA, which has done such great work with rural broadband through USDA Reconnect. So as we talk about this, you think about the fact that we're going to have lots of money again going towards broadband, but it may leave certain areas that still need some connectivity, and that's kind of what this is meant to address. So whether it goes anywhere, I don't know, but let's take a look at it. We'll take a look at a couple of things written about it, and then also I will take a look at the text of the bill just to give you an idea of, if it does pass, what will be in there. So you see here, Inside Towers, Last Acre Act would create a new USDA Rural Broadband Loan Grant Program. So we've currently got USDA Reconnect. This would be a little bit different. And again, looking at the last acre. So U.S. growers and livestock producers increasingly rely on the internet across the farm and ranch, yet many still don't have access to it. A report the USDA released in August found that 15% of farms and ranches have no access to the internet, according to Drovers.com. A bill recently introduced in Congress looks to change that by expanding high-speed broadband internet access across rural America. Two members of the House Agriculture Committee, Representative Brad Finstad, a Republican from Minnesota, and Yadira Craveo, a Democrat, Colorado, introduced the Linking Access to Spur Technology for Agriculture Connectivity in Rural Environments, or the Last Acre Act. So obviously they made up a cool acronym there. So let's just call it the Last Acre Act, but you've got acre in that big old string of words there. If passed, the Last Acre Act would create a new competitive grant and loan program at the USDA to expand broadband access across eligible farmland, ranch land, and farm sites. And again, a complementary bill was also introduced in the Senate with a Republican and Democrat on that. I'm actually going to take a look at the press release from the Senate version here in just a minute. In its research, USDA found that 51% of internet-connected farms use a broadband connection, while 75% of connected farms have access through a cellular data plan. Additionally, 69% of farms have a desktop or laptop computer, while 82% of farms have a smartphone, according to Drovers.com. The Last Acre Act will help drive agricultural innovation into the 21st century by bringing the latest farming technology and tools to every corner of the farm country, giving farmers and ranchers, and even the most remote areas, greater ability to adopt precision ag applications and ensure optimal efficiency in their operations, Finstad added. So I've linked to everything here, basically, that I'm going to show you. So I've linked to this particular story in Inside Towers. They mentioned this USDA report. I took a quick look at this, and I did link to it, although this is basically a report that's just got lots of numbers and percentages in it. You can take a look at it. A lot of it's about you see here farm technology use, but also farm internet access. Talks about that 21 to 2023, methods of internet access, those kinds of things. So again, lots of facts and figures if you want to check that out, and lots of small little font that I'm not going to go through right now. So feel free. I've linked to this as well if you want to check that out. This is the press release for Deb Fischer. This is the senator, one of the senators that introduced it. So I thought I'd just read a quick thing in here because it has some quotes from some folks here. So this is a quote from Deb Fischer. It says, "It's time for us to connect the last mile to the last acre." And you think about that. So we think about the last mile of broadband being something going to the residents, the last mile to the residents, but in a farm, it's a little bit different. Obviously, in an apartment, it's kind of a little bit different because you go last mile is to the apartment, basically the apartment building, but then you've got to connect all the units inside. So that's a little different as well. So that's kind of a different challenge here than, let's say, residential internet. Producers looking to adopt precision agriculture technologies need network connectivity that extends far past their residences. They need to be able to make real-time decisions that increase yields and employ resources more efficiently. Our Last Acre Act will ensure that USDA has the strategy and resources needed to support last acre connectivity, she said. There's some different stakeholders in here, some quotes that I think bring out a little bit of the case. So, equipment manufacturers are proud to provide American farmers and ranchers with innovative tools that will keep our agriculture sector competitive for generations to come. Farmers and ranchers cannot take advantage of the benefits of technology such as precision agriculture without reliable and affordable connectivity. That's a really good point. We tend to, we're the breadbasket of the world, so to speak. We tend to feed ourselves and others. And obviously, the more efficiently we can do that, lower cost we can do that, then the better. And this technology could be useful, but it can't be used in a lot of cases if the farm is not connected, and really if every acre of the farm is not somehow reachable with broadband access a lot of the time. So there's, again, several quotes in here from different folks that you can take a look at. And then I thought I'd take a look at the text of the bill to give you an idea what's in here. So this here is part of, this would be administered by USDA. It says here to amend the Rural Electrification Act of 1936 to establish a last acre program and for other purposes. So similar to the telecom bill of around the same time, you've got this Rural Electrification Act where that's why we have power on all of these rural areas and farms, because we had an act that helped to facilitate that. So we've got lots of rural electric co-ops that were established, some of which now are not so rural. In some cases, they are still very rural. So I'm connected to a rural, not really a rural electric co-op. It's an electric membership co-op, but it's not rural by any stretch of the imagination anymore, but I still am connected to a co-op. So they helped electrify our country. And now, obviously, they are helping with broadband. USDA is helping with broadband services. We've got a lot of electric co-ops out there that are providing broadband or investigating providing broadband and getting ready to launch broadband. The IIJA and the BEAD program certainly would like to have a lot of electric co-ops provide broadband because they would prefer that the companies that are providing it be not-for-profit. Electric co-ops are in a great position to provide broadband because they have a lot of facilities out there. They cover large areas, generally could be counties and portions of states. And a lot of times it's outside the areas where a lot of traditional providers are. So you've got telephone companies, cable companies in the small towns, and then you get outside those towns and there's not much coverage. So, but this is more really, it doesn't have to be electric co-ops that would be the providers here. It could be anybody. And I think there's going to be some fixed wireless opportunity here because we're talking about providing internet to every acre. And it's going to be hard to do that via fiber going down a cornfield. So there's certainly a place for wireless in here. But it does, again, they're going to try to get fiber to the farm, I think. And then from there, how you distribute it's another question. This act may be cited, and again, here's the big long name, has that big long name, or the Last Acre Act. I think we'll stick with the Last Acre Act. I like that. Title 4, again, Rural Electrification is amended by adding the following. Last Acre Program. Purposes of this section are to advance precision agriculture connectivity nationwide and to augment last mile broadband deployment for agriculture producers by expanding high-speed internet access across the last acre. Broadband internet describes that in there. It describes broadband maps. This is basically the same as we have in the BEAD program as far as what's considered broadband, and they talk about unserved and underserved, same definitions. Broadband maps, the same thing as far as what we've got today and using that. They talk about a covered producer in here. That would be your farmer, basically. It's a person or entity that is directly engaged in the production of agricultural products, including crops or livestock on eligible land. A lot of times we think of farms as being crops, but there's livestock, dairy farms, those kinds of things. On eligible land that is unserved or underserved, such that a majority of the gross income of the person or entity is derived from those products. That's basically how they're making their living. Covered provider, that would be just the provider of broadband service that would be providing internet to any of these covered producers. And that could be a provider of wireless equipment or communication services as well. Eligible land. The term eligible land means cropland, grassland, rangeland, pastureland, farm sites, and other agricultural land used for the active production of agricultural commodities or livestock. So basically your farms and your ranches, those kinds of things. See what else we got in here. Precision agriculture. So what is that? That means managing, tracking, or reducing crop or livestock production inputs, the stuff that you put into that, which would be things like seed, feed, fertilizer, chemicals, water, and time, at a heightened level of spatial and temporal granularity to improve efficiencies, reduce waste, and maintain or improve environmental quality. So basically, increasing the efficiency that the farmers, in the way that they can farm, reducing the kinds of their expenses and costs and resources that they have to put into that, whether that's time, do things more efficiently. It could be through being able to cover more acres in less time to reduce, they're talking about improve environmental quality, maybe reduce waste. It mentions here waste. I think of waste as in time, but also maybe waste products, using less water, all this stuff's important. In general, the term qualifying connectivity means, and it talks again about the same things that we have in BEAD, 100 by 20, as far as that would be the minimum that you would provide on this if you were going to do that. Providing broadband internet access service by any technology, so it's not just fiber, obviously, to structures and devices on eligible land, including tractors, combines, irrigation systems, drones, undersoil sensors, livestock facilities, and farm offices. So you've got some things that are going to be more, let's say, fiber-oriented, where you've got fiber running to a farm, and it could include the residents and the offices, those kinds of things, livestock facilities. They're all going to be maybe kind of a close proximity. But then you've got fields, and you've got tractors and combines that are riding out in the fields, and obviously you're not going to be dragging fiber behind you. So there's going to have to be some kind of wireless on that farm as well. Providing multi-point wireless network connectivity that facilitates data transmission between structures and devices on eligible land. So again, that's that point I was just making there. Underserved and unserved are the same that we have in BEAD. Underserved being 120 or less, underserved less than that, 25 by 3. So if it's not 25 by 3 or greater, then it's unserved. Establishment, not later than 1 year after the date of enactment of this section, the Secretary, and this would be the Secretary of USDA, and this would be after this passes and is signed, right? So 1 year, not less than 1 year after that. Secretary of the USDA shall establish a program to be known as the Last Acre Program to make grants and loans to covered providers on a competitive basis to provide qualifying connectivity to unserved and underserved eligible land. So this sounds like it'll be kind of administered like the USDA Reconnect, where you have loans and grants, and it could be that maybe you could get, like Reconnect, you could get 100% loan or 100% grant, or a combination 50-50 of those. So that will probably be very similar. Use of funds, they mentioned cybersecurity in here. So that is one of the funds that, or one of the things that you can use with the fund. So it's interesting that, we've had the BEAD program say that you have to have cybersecurity to be able to provide broadband service if you're going to do that with BEAD funding. We've got EACAM, enhanced ACAM, that if you're going to accept those funds, you need cybersecurity. They're not saying here that cybersecurity is necessary for, let's say, the provider that's going to provide the service, but they do say that cybersecurity can be one of the use of the funds in this case. Prohibitions, the Secretary shall not award any assistance for broadband internet access to an inhabitable residence that is identified as serviceable or to be served. So that means a lot of these farms are going to be getting broadband service through, let's say, the BEAD program or through Reconnect already. Maybe that's, or through RDOF. Any funds, there could be committed funds or something like that. And then it mentioned, and so those would not qualify, but that doesn't mean that the rest of the farm cannot be, they can't use funds for the rest of the farm in that case. So on a commercial basis, it's talking about to surrounding areas outside the eligible land. So I think that's saying that you can't take this money if you're a farmer, use it, and then provide it to your fellow farmers and in the next farm over, let's say, so you can't sell them the service on a commercial basis. I think that's what that's saying. The federal share of the project shall not be more than 80% of the total cost of the project. So I think that's similar to USDA, where there's got to be a 20% match, basically, is what that sounds to me. The Secretary may increase the federal share of the cost to 90% if the covered producer is a limited resource farmer or rancher. And a little bit further up there, it defined that, but I just went ahead and copied it down here while we're looking at it. So a limited resource farmer or rancher is a producer where gross farm sales in each of the previous 2 years is not more than $100,000 as adjusted for inflation since 2002. So in essence, smaller farms, would be a limited resource farmer, so they could have less of a share. Get 90% of the funds in that case. Bid applications. Covered provider shall submit to the Secretary an application, the measures by which the covered producer has engaged with the covered. So it's got to have the measures by which the covered producer has engaged with the covered provider to identify the appropriate qualifying connectivity plan to serve the eligible land. So the covered provider would need to be interacting with the farm or farmers that they're going to be working with, and show how they've engaged with them. A description of how the assistance would be used to establish qualifying connectivity, including the entire acreage in need of qualifying connectivity. So you can't just come out and say, I'm going to connect the farm and the building here where they keep their feed and whatnot. But if the farmer wants to be able to use this precision farming agricultural kind of equipment out in all of acres, again, connecting their tractors and their combines and whatever, they need to be showing how they're going to do that. The amount of the federal share, so is it going to be 80%, 90%, something less? Whether the covered provider is capable, and that's the usual stuff that we see in all of these things. Do they have the financial and managerial capacity? Do they have the technical operational capability? Whether the eligible land is unserved or underserved, and make sure it's not subject to an enforceable commitment. Again, some previous funds, USDA Reconnect, RDOF, maybe BEAD funding that's going to be going there. There's no BEAD funding. There's nothing committed for BEAD yet, so we don't know on that. But this bill hasn't passed yet, so this could come out even after BEAD funding start being awarded. This would have to get through Congress. The House right now, even though the House introduced a bill, we're looking at the House version of the bill right now, that doesn't mean it would pass, because you've got Republicans in charge and we are really in debt. There's a lot of money that's going toward broadband that's already been approved. So I would not be surprised. I'm telling you all of this, and I'm reading all of this, but I'm kind of telling you that whether this passes, I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. So it could very well be after BEAD, and it might require a change in who is over Congress, Senate or the House. So Secretary shall create an online portal within which covered providers may register voluntarily with the Secretary for purposes of the program. Let's see here. So there'll be a portal. In registering, Secretary shall not require a covered provider to provide any proprietary business information. That's important. And this is also important, require a covered provider to participate in the program. So just because you register that you want to do this and you're going to say, I want to be a covered provider in this area or in whatever, however they define that, doesn't mean that you then have to participate. So it's not like RDOF, where you submitted that you wanted to do this, and then I think at some point you were basically locked in. So you said, yeah, I'm going to do this. I think maybe if you participated in the auction, I can't remember where it was, but there was a certain point where you couldn't back out without fines. So in this case, you don't have to worry about that. Notification to covered providers. So not less frequently than once every 30 days, the Secretary shall post on an internet website, and this is going to the internet service providers, identifying information of eligible land contained in a complete initial bid application. So if one provider bids on something, then at least once a month, the Secretary is going to post that on an internet site. Then not later than 24 hours after that, they'll send a notice of that post to covered providers that are registered on that site. So every other covered provider gets a look and say, oh, there's a bid out here that's outstanding. Then they can accept challenges, the USDA, the challenges, it says not later than 45 business days after that. A covered provider may submit a challenge of any posted eligible land at which connectivity is available to the entire portion of the land of the initial bid. So It could be that they're getting it some other way. But generally, I would think if that provider is already providing the service, then that could be the challenge. The covered provider could initiate qualifying connectivity through a routine installation. So in other words, this farm or wherever the bid is, while they don't have service, the covered provider is saying, hey, they could get service. They just need to call us. In other words, we could install it within 10 days in a standard business installation. Now, again, that would only be if that farmer, that covered producer, says, yeah, I just need it to these couple of locations here. I don't need it to my whole farm and every acre on my farm, because that is not a routine installation. Or maybe it would be if that provider said, yeah, we can come out there, we'll connect you up with fiber, and then we can install a wireless antenna on top of your barn or on top of your water tower or something like that. We can install a wireless up there and connect up to, maybe they could do it really. Actually, it's very possible they could. The covered provider has an enforceable commitment to deploy broadband to the eligible land. So that would be, again, if they look at it and they go, wait a minute, we're getting some USDA reconnect money to connect this up. So they are not eligible to do that. So those are the kinds of things that would show up there. Competing bid applications. A covered provider can submit a competing bid application not later than 120 days after the covered provider receives the notification. Evaluation not later than 30 business days after the 120-day period. That would be the 120 days where they're going to be seeing any competitive bids that come in. After that ends, the Secretary shall evaluate the bid applications received and select the applicant that presents the lowest cost to the Secretary, that best demonstrates to the covered producer the ability to provide downstream and upstream transmission capacity that can reliably support the specific connectivity needs of all on-farm applications described in the bid application. So again, that's kind of the driver. So if the bid application, if the farmer says, I need 100% of my farm covered with gigabit broadband speeds, or 500 megabits per second minimum, something, whatever it happens to be, then that would be something that would win if another one, let's say, was less than that for some reason. Enhanced speeds, prioritization. In selecting bid applicants, the Secretary may give priority to a covered provider that offers speeds that are greater than the 100 by 20. So if they say, hey, we can do half a gig symmetrical, they'll get priority for that. And I think that would be the case if we've got fiber going to the farm, and then you can do some kind of CBRS wireless or something like that around the farm where you can get pretty high speeds. And that can be unlicensed spectrum at that point, right? So if you get pretty good speeds to that CBRS wireless unlicensed, you could do well over 100 by 20, then that would, let's say, get priority. Anything else in here? That might be it. Oh, no, here we go. Requirement. When to do this. So the maximum build-out time frame of not more than 4 years from the date on which the assistance is provided. And there'd be penalties. The Secretary shall establish and enforce standardized penalties, fines, and sanctions for noncompliance. And they'll have certain milestones that would be established. And then priority as far as this is priority for the applications. So it would be those that are starting with unserved eligible lands in remote areas. So further out, harder to reach. Then you've got unserved on eligible lands, not necessarily remote areas. Then you've got the underserved after that. Underserved eligible lands and remote areas, and then underserved just eligible lands. And again, it mentions cybersecurity as a condition on receipt of assistance under subsection C. A covered provider shall. So this does not say, so I mentioned it wasn't a requirement. I forgot about this. It sounds like it is a requirement, but it's not written, surprisingly, around the BEAD cybersecurity requirements or the EACAM cybersecurity requirements, which are based on the BEAD. And BEAD is based on the NIST cybersecurity framework. The framework basically lays out what a provider has to have in place. And this is a little bit more vague. It says a covered provider shall ensure that any structure, device, or system provided or constructed using the assistance incorporates a layered defense strategy as a means of defensible security architecture, and They must certify to the secretary that the covered provider maintains a regularly updated configuration management plan. So that's pretty vague. I'm not sure what that means. Like I say, the BEAD program, and then EACAM picked up from the BEAD program the NIST cybersecurity framework, which is very defined. It's got different categories of what you need to do. It's all about how you protect both the risks from people, meaning password protection, kind of training people on how to avoid phishing schemes and other things that can lead to ransomware or those kinds of things, hacking. And then also the technology that would be used to monitor, kind of automatically monitor the network and alert you to any problems and to mitigate any issues that come up, or prevent, or certainly make less bad, mitigate any cybersecurity things. So it's very vague. I wouldn't be surprised if this does pass, that they eventually change this language to maybe reflect what's already in BEAD and in the EACAM there, which would be the NIST stuff. And by the way, if you need assistance with that, we can help with cybersecurity. So if you are watching this and going, wait, oh yeah, that's right, I need to do cybersecurity for BEAD or for EACAM, we can help you with that. We've got a managed security operations center as a service. So you don't need to have any equipment. You don't need to have the people. It's all done in the cloud, other than we provide the agents, and I don't mean people, I mean the code that would go on endpoints, for example, if we need to monitor your endpoints or your servers. We've got the real people, the technical people that monitor the data that's coming from those things, and we'll make sure that if we see anything, we alert you, or we will take action. If it's the middle of the night, we'll take action if we have to prevent something from spreading, those kinds of things. And NIST requires that, again, you have your house in order, so we can help with that. As far as, we can't certainly get your house in order, but we can tell you everything you need to do to have your house in order, as far as, again, training. We can do vulnerability assessments, run something that will look at all of the servers on your network and see what's vulnerable, make sure you've got all your software patched, those kinds of things, plus anything, any other vulnerabilities or potential exploits. We will look into that and let you know prior to even doing anything. So important stuff. You need to have that in place, and it will need to be in place here. Again, it's just kind of vague with how they are, how they're defining that. But I think they will probably make that a lot more clear if this does get to a point where this is further looked at and eventually passed. I wanted to mention this. So a few months ago, I think, I did a broadcast about this thing that they're doing in Iowa in association with the university out there, where they were looking at applications for farming, including this precision agriculture stuff. So I went ahead and linked to a page that talks about that I referred to at that time, as well as the video that I did at that time. If you're really interested in the farming and the agriculture and what they're doing there in Iowa, basically they're leveraging the university network there and doing this testing of these things. So I linked to this page for ARA. It's basically, I forget what this was, stands for agriculture. Is it in here? Can't remember. Anyway, so it's kind of a, it's not necessarily a company. It's more of I think it's a not-for-profit that's doing this. But it talks here, see, in what follows, we elaborate on 3 examples of agriculture research activities. Maybe that's it, ARA, yeah, maybe. Enabled by the ARA deployment in central Iowa. For example, as a part of the NSF PhenoNet project, Dr. Lai Tang has developed a fleet of phenobots for high-throughput plant phenotyping. And here's one of those bots. So you can see up at the top here, kind of, it's got an antenna. So you got this antenna up here, and it actually goes out and can check the plant. It can, I think it has a camera that can look at the leaves and which direction. Are they pointing down? Are they pointing up? It looks like it can take maybe some samples and things. So very, very significant technology here. But obviously, again, you can't be dragging a fiber cable behind this. So you need wireless connectivity to go out down all the rows of your plants and to do this checking, and these little phenobots that can do this. So it says here, one high impact application of ultra reliable, low latency communication in rural communities is connected and automated ag vehicles, for example, seeders, sprayers, and combines that leverage real-time data analytics and automation to enable precision agriculture. So see here, there's a drone. It's got some other things going on here. So I linked to this page. I linked to that where I talked in more depth about that testing that they're doing out in Iowa of some of this equipment and using that the university network there to do that. So you will find that as well in the description of this video. And here you see our contact information. So if you were like, wow, I want to know about that cybersecurity stuff, you see our website here and our email address and our phone number. Just reach out and contact us. We'll be happy to tell you all about it and how we can help. And again, that's not just, the technology. I mean, you need to know what you need to know. And we can even help with that. We'll be certainly happy to, we'll do a demo for you, or a presentation for you. And during that, you'll get a lot of information from us. Even if we don't ever provide service for you, we will certainly talk to you about some of the things that you need to know. And, we can help you out there, kind of give you a better idea of what's involved. And we do offer a couple of free kinds of, like a free security assessment. And we can even do some free, if you're really interested and really qualified and ready to do something, we can do a free test of our endpoint security, endpoint detection and response. On a limited basis, we'll offer that. So check us out there. You see the info. So thanks for joining me today. Again, just one final note. So again, I don't know if this is going to happen or not, but it is a bill that's out there. It's both the Senate and the House. It's got a Republican and a Democrat on each side. That all helps. And this is USDA. So USDA is in the business of providing and has been providing a broadband service to farms. There's a lot of Republican, even though I said it's a Republican administration right now and a little bit tight on money. Republicans are definitely pro-farm, pro-American agriculture. So you never know. It could be that money could be freed up in this as part of a farm bill, something like that, where this actually does come about and take place. So we'll have to see. So thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to our channel, click the subscribe button, ring the bell, and you'll be notified when I'm live. If this was helpful or interesting, if you give me a like on the video, just click the thumbs up. I'd appreciate that. Again, thanks for joining me. See you next time. Bye-bye.